And we're back.
And now we are here with the KDA Gods versus 2 Hero. So right now we're going to go ahead and get straight into bands. We have a Lee Sin band coming out for the KDA Gods and a Twisted Fate for 2 Hero, followed by a Lulu for KDA Gods. So it looks like Lulu's being a pretty consistent band in this tournament.
So far as part of the stream, I don't think we have seen her not banned at all. She's
Right.
definitely a force to be reckoned with, and people are aware of that.
Right. So it's kind of interesting to see everyone agreeing that she's that big of a threat in terms of team comps. Looks like they banned a Gangplank. That must be a target ban.
Yeah, it's looking like 2 Heroes team is looking to ban out like more global presence champions like TF who can teleport in and Gangplank who can ult from anywhere.
Right. And it looks like they're banning on the KDA Gods a bunch of pretty much utility type of characters. Kennen with his AoE massive ult, Lulu with her shields and slows, and Lee Sin with his maneuverability and pretty much playmaking potential. You can kind of see that there's some fairly important stuff that everyone wants to get out of the way. And looks like the first pick for the KDA Gods is going to be Zach.
Yeah, Zach always looks like definitely a very powerful, confident pick. Not much that I can think that like straight up counters like his ability to just jump on in there and get bouncing.
Right. And it's also kind of interesting. This might be the last time we get to see Zach with his current ult. We know he's supposed to be scheduled for rework, just like Maokai and Sejuani. So we'll have to see. We'll get this last little hurrah in for Zach as he goes ahead and gets picked for this game. Looks like 2 Heroes going to go ahead and pick their first 2 champions. We got a...
It's Aaliyah. Interesting. Haven't seen that be picked so far this tournament, I believe.
Right. That's actually kind of interesting. I'm glad that we got a chance to see her in this if they go ahead and pick her. They picked Darius for top, and they went ahead and picked Talia. Okay.
Yeah. She definitely has a lot of like good presence, especially in like CC oriented comps. Like even with the Darius, there's a natural synergy there. Like by her putting down her like floor of rocks and Darius just dragging him through to do even more damage.
Right.
Like it just sets up the playing field for a CC oriented comp.
And the next pick for the KDA Gods were actually Karthus and Caitlyn. Which is actually kind of interesting, and it kind of goes along with the theme that you brought up earlier about trying to get rid of global presence throughout the game. Imagine if there was a Karthus and a Gangplank on the same team.
That's just terrifying because it's guaranteed that if the Gangplank can see you, he can aim that ult. It's pretty big. And then Karthus, I don't know, that's a pretty hard skill shot to land, I've heard, though.
Right, fair enough. So it looks like 2 Hero went ahead and picked Braum and Elise, leaving their ADC to still be picked. So we'll see what they decide to round out their team comp with. Right now, it looks like KDA Gods, though, they look like they're gonna go ahead and pick Tom Kench and Alawi.
You know, the KDA Gods, they're actually picking a very AP oriented with 4 out of 5 members like being AP based, which is very interesting to see. Also, that's like Karthus jungle. Oh.
I'm not sure about that yet.
I remember Karthus jungle used to be a pretty strong thing. Like, it used to be a thing, you can say.
But I'm assuming that the Zach and the Karthus might be switching. Karthus was pretty much being picked later because they didn't necessarily know who they were going against. So it looks like Alawi's going to be going top. Zach is going to be going jungle. Karthus is going to be going mid. Caitlyn and Tom Kench. Looks like they're moving around now. And that's going to be Talia versus Karthus. That's going to be a new match I haven't seen in a while. Darius versus Alawi. I'm not going to lie, that's going to be more towards Alawi in all honesty.
Darius is definitely not going to be making any calamari up there.
No. You don't use axe, or you don't use axes to, hunt for octopus or octopi, I guess. Elise and Zach, they're pretty much. It's going to be depending on who actually can do something effectively in the early game, I think. Whoever's the most effective jungler in the early game is going to end up winning that matchup, I think. And Caitlyn and Tom versus Draven and Braum.
Yeah.
It could go either way.
Yeah. What I'll have to say, though, about the jungle is that Elise does fall off late game pretty hard. Zach will continue to have his presence throughout, I believe. His early game obviously be weaker. Elise's early game ganking presence is one of the strongest in the game by far.
So that's what I'm saying. If Elise can make things happen in the early game, I think there will be more than they won't have any problems in terms of getting through to the mid and possibly ending the game then. But if Zach is the one who goes ahead and takes things first, it might go to mid or late game if Two Hero ever expects to try and get a win out of that.
Absolutely.
So, also, Tom. We haven't seen too much Tom Kench lately either.
Yeah, no TK really that much. I mean, again, they definitely were banning against them. They did their research because even though they banned out 2 global champions, they still picked up another 2. So they're definitely gunning for that global alt comp here, where they just have the presence everywhere. Just that kind of annoyance of being hey, we can be hitting you here, and we can be bringing Tom Kench with another person at the same time.
Right. Another item of interest, though, is that the two KDA Gods actually seems to have a 4-man front line. With Tom, Alawi, and Zach all being in the Tom, Alawi, Zach, and Karthus all being in the front, Caitlyn is pretty much going to be either left to fend for herself, or she's going to pretty much be untouchable, depending on how they maneuver around in team fights. Elise has a chance to possibly get around some gaps to try and get to her, but right now, unless Talia goes ahead and ults and separates the team out, it's going to be really difficult to get to Caitlyn.
Yeah, I agree. Something to be said, though, it's probably a good idea to build this very beefy front line, because I believe in the interview with Two Hero and in the game with Two Hero, the last one, actually he scored the first pentakill of the tournament with his Caitlyn.
Yeah. So that was probably why KDA Gods actually picked up Caitlyn, in all honesty, to keep that from happening again. But Draven is still pretty terrifying, especially combined with the Braum.
Yeah, just that ability to have a stunned person with the Braum passive is just perfect for Draven, able to swing the maxes and keep getting his gold.
Right. So, and plus, it looks like, now that I think about it, there's an even amount of global ults.
Yeah, actually.
So it looks like both teams might have had a little bit of that in mind. There was a little more of a team fight disruption going on with KDA Gods bans, and it looks like, of course, like we said earlier, it was a global ban on Two Heroes' side, but it looks like they kind of had the same idea going into this a little bit. At least the team comps kind of match each other a little bit.
Yeah, definitely some good synergy seen, like we said earlier, with the Draven and the Braum being a good synergy, the Talia and the Darius also another good synergy. But on the KDA Gods team, actually, Zach and Alawi is a crazy good synergy, because you just make a pit, basically, with the Alawi swinging her tentacles and the Zach just bouncing around.
Right.
And it does a lot of damage really fast.
Right. I say that, Zach tends to be one of those champions you're not really sure. You feel like you should be able to take him down quickly, but after a while, you start to notice something's not necessarily right, and by then it's almost too late going into the game to try and fix the solution or find the solution to that problem. So it's going to be up to Two Hero to be aware of what's going on around them. Otherwise, it's not going to go great. And wow. Okay, so I think this Karthus has a plan. This Karthus definitely has a plan, and I think that at least kind of knows what they're doing.
Yeah, running that Death Fire Touch. Also, nice to see there's 2 teleports on KDA God's team.
Right.
Keep that Zac alive when he goes into his passive.
Yeah. I hope they don't do that. That's very cheesy.
Yeah, very cheesy, but sometimes it just turns out to work very well.
Very true. Actually, now that I think about it, with Karthus, if he goes ahead and teleports to a Zac in the middle of a team fight, even if he still has his abilities up, that means he's still doing damage, even though he's not necessarily moving and he's keeping Zac alive. So yeah, that actually might be what their plan is for that situation as it comes up.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start this all off. We have this angry orange Zac. And we also have this Victorious Elise. I haven't seen that skin in a long time, actually.
Yeah, it's just a really nice skin, I think. I wish I got it. Yeah, not that good, though.
Yeah, neither was I.
Single tier.
You say, but I got that Maokai.
Yeah. I didn't get that one, but I got the Meowkai, so I'm okay with that.
All right, it looks like we have a little bit of maneuvering around bottom. Looks like actually...
Very passive starts, but both teams are orientating more towards that red side jungle, where they're maybe looking to get some early deep wards in there. KDA God's definitely taking that very defensive position, not offering them a lot of vision to see if somebody wards or not, because they do not have good vision of inside the red buff, nor do they have good vision of the river.
Right. So that, in all honesty, they could be getting flanked and they would never know it. That's not really a good position, in my mind, to wait to see if the enemy team is going to go ahead and invade.
Yeah.
Because, in all honesty, you need to be able to see where these guys are coming from if they're coming. And like I said, they could be pinched, or they could get flanked and essentially pinch or struck right there.
Yeah.
And the only one who would definitely get out is Zach. Caitlyn might be able to get out if she hasn't necessarily taken an ability yet, which she already did, so that's not going to work out for her either. So, yeah, that's dangerous. For all the viewers who are watching, never pick an ability until you go to your actual lane, because you never know who might decide to try and come through and murder you, and you never know if you might need to pick an ability that you normally wouldn't pick in lane to get yourself out of that.
Exactly. Yeah, so Alawi Darius, that lane definitely interesting. Alawi having more of the ranged effects and the sustain actually to keep up with the Darius in case she does get engaged on.
Right. I say very, like I said, as an Alawi player, I feel like that matchup has pretty much been predetermined. Alawi's going to win it, but like I said, in previous matches and previous games, it comes down to patience. Darius needs to be patient in this situation. Alawi's obviously going to go ahead and have the capacity to pretty much break him if he tries to go in on her at a bad time. Or if stuff like this happens where she goes ahead and grabs his soul or his spirit out.
Yeah, and he just came up there and honestly took even more damage by getting himself caught into a tentacle.
Right. Whenever you're fighting against...
Elise going for the early gate. Could have gatched Karthus there. He might have to burn Flash for this.
He is going to have to, but
it's
it doesn't.
Not enough.
It was definitely not worth. Elise goes ahead and helps Talia get her first kill of the match 3 minutes in. Two Hero definitely coming out swinging.
Talia, like, if you can get that character down, she just does so much damage by being able to move people through that rock floor to do even more damage.
Yes, it allows you to be incredibly creative with your moves, and it pretty much makes people if you can take advantage of people's positioning. And positioning is one of those things that a lot of people don't necessarily think of when they play these games. That's kind of like why people kind of hate Teemo. He takes advantage of the fact that if you aren't paying attention to the ground you're stepping on, if you're thinking that you can pretty much go wherever you need to, you're not going to do a good job, or you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah, the strongest pick against Teemo definitely would be like picking up that sweeping